He found a young girl alone on the sidewalk. 10 years later, a miracle happened. The morning rain had stopped, but the streets still shimmered with puddles. Sunlight struggled through gray clouds, reflecting off wet pavement and passing cars. The city was waking up, the sidewalks filled with hurried footsteps and umbrellas being shaken out. But no one noticed the girl. No one except Mr. James Thompson. He was just walking back from the grocery store, his tan jacket zipped to the collar and a brown paper bag tucked under his arm. He nearly tripped when he saw her, a small girl, maybe 6, curled up on the edge of the sidewalk right beside a lamppost. Her pale green-white dress was soaked and stained, clinging to her skinny frame. Her hair stuck to her forehead. She had no shoes, no bag, and no coat. Her knees were drawn to her chest, her cheek pressed against the concrete like it was the softest pillow she had left in the world. James stared. People walked around her. Some glanced. No one stopped. He knelt slowly beside her. "Sweetheart, can you hear me?" Her eyes opened halfway, big brown eyes, hollow like she'd cried so much there was nothing left. "You okay?" he asked. She whispered one word, "Cold." That was all it took. James put his bag down and gently took off his jacket, wrapping it around her damp body. She didn't resist when he lifted her into his arms. She tucked her face into his shoulder as if she'd known him her whole life. He didn't even think. He just walked straight home. His small apartment was quiet, warm, and cluttered with memories. Photos of his late wife and daughter filled the shelves. He hadn't raised a child in years, but the way the girl curled up on his old couch, falling asleep without a word, it awakened something in him. After drying her off and giving her soup, James tried asking again. "What's your name?" "Mira," she whispered. "Do you know where your parents are?" She shook her head. "Did someone hurt you?" Silence. That night, she slept on the couch with a blanket over her and James's jacket still wrapped tightly around her shoulders. The next day, James called child services. He explained everything. They sent a social worker named Lisa. She looked over Mira, asked questions, ran her photo through every database. No missing person report. No identification. No one looking. She might be undocumented, Lisa said quietly. Or abandoned. It happens. What now? James asked. Well, foster homes are full, she said. But if you're willing, we can fast-track you as a temporary guardian. James didn't hesitate. I'll take care of her for as long as she needs. Days turned into weeks. Mira didn't talk much, but she followed James everywhere, sat beside him at breakfast, waited by the door when he took out the trash. Her silence wasn't empty. It was watchful, like she was studying how to be safe again. One day, James caught her in the living room, standing beside the old upright piano that had belonged to his wife. Her small fingers traced the keys without pressing them. You like that? He asked. Mira nodded. Go ahead. She hesitated, then touched one key. Then another. Then a soft sound, a broken scale. The notes didn't match, but something about how she moved made James stop what he was doing. That night, she tried again. Played the same broken scale. Then another. Over the next few days, she spent more and more time there. Never speaking. Just feeling. One Sunday morning while James made breakfast, he heard something that made him drop the spatula. Music. Real music. He rushed to the living room. There she was, eyes closed, shoulders swaying, playing a melody James hadn't heard in years. It was Amazing Grace. And it was beautiful. Mira, he whispered. She stopped playing, looked up nervously. I just heard it in church once, she said. I wanted to try. James knelt beside her. You didn't try, baby. You did. That was incredible. She smiled. Small. Soft. Her first smile. As months passed, Mira opened up more. She began humming to herself, drawing, asking questions. Her favorite thing to do was play the piano in the late afternoon, when sunlight came through the blinds and lit the keys like gold. James officially became her foster parent. Every Sunday at their small church, Mira was invited to play a short piece. At first, it was simple hymns. Then more complex arrangements. The congregation would stop talking. Some cried. "She plays like someone who's lived 1,000 years, the pastor once said. Mira didn't know what to say to that. She just played. Then one day, James came home excited. "Look," he said. "There's a youth music competition next weekend. Piano division. No entry fee." Mira hesitated. "I don't want to win." "You don't have to. Just share your gift." She looked at him. "What if they don't like it?" James smiled. "They will. Because it's you." The auditorium was large, filled with families and judges and teenagers in shiny outfits. Mira wore a simple sky blue dress and neat white shoes James had saved up for. When her name was called, she walked up slowly. The hall quieted. She sat, closed her eyes, and played, not loud, not flashy, but deep, emotional, like she was telling her life story through every note. When she finished, there was silence. Then applause. Standing ovation. Mira returned backstage, overwhelmed. James hugged her tightly. "You were perfect," he whispered. Then someone approached, an elegant woman with a tablet and badge. "Mr. Thompson?" "Yes. I represent a music foundation for prodigious youth. Your daughter, she's extraordinary. We'd like to offer her a full scholarship. Lessons. Mentorship. National stages." James stared. "You're serious? She's not just talented. She's one in a million." As they left the building, beaming, Mira glanced across the parking lot and froze. A man stood near a tree, watching her. Pale. Nervous. He didn't clap. He didn't smile. He just stared. And then quickly walked away. James saw it too. "Do you know him?" he asked. Mira didn't answer. But her smile faded. And James realized the story wasn't over. Not yet. Mira couldn't stop thinking about the man in the parking lot. His face was unfamiliar, but her body had reacted before her brain could process, a chill, a sudden pressure in her chest, as if some buried memory had stirred. James noticed the shift. That evening over dinner, he asked gently, "You sure you don't recognize him?" Mira stared at her fork. "No. But I think I used to." That night, she sat at the piano but didn't play. For the first time in months, her fingers hovered, then fell still. "What if my past finds me?" she asked. James came beside her. "Then we face it together." Weeks passed. The scholarship offer became real. Mira began attending private music lessons twice a week. Her tutors called her a phenomenon. Videos of her church performances went viral. One, titled "The Piano Girl Who Slept on the Sidewalk," reached millions. Strangers wrote letters. Some sent gifts. But James made sure her life stayed grounded. Piano. School. Laughter. Quiet. Then one autumn afternoon, a knock came at the door. James opened it to find a well-dressed woman in her early 40s, holding a small envelope in trembling hands. "Mr. Thompson," she asked. "My name is Dr. Evelyn Carter. I think I know Mira." James's breath caught. "How?" She opened the envelope, revealing a faded photo of a young girl, same green-white dress, same eyes. "She's my niece. She vanished 10 years ago. My brother, he was unstable. Took her from her mother and disappeared. We thought they were dead. James's hands trembled. Are you saying he left her on purpose? Evelyn nodded. He was arrested 2 weeks ago, possession of forged IDs. He confessed. He abandoned her. He said she wouldn't stop crying. Mira stepped into the room, hearing the last part. Her eyes locked on Evelyn. Do you remember me, sweetheart? Evelyn asked gently. Mira took a step back. You were there. In a photo. On a wall. I remember. In the weeks that followed, DNA confirmed the truth. Myra's mother had died shortly after she vanished. No one had known where the child went. Evelyn had searched, filed reports, begged authorities, but the trail had gone cold. Now, she wanted to reconnect. I don't want to take her from you, she told James. You raised her. You gave her a life. But I'd love to be part of her future. James looked at Mira. It's your choice. Mira nodded slowly. You can come to my next concert. The event was held in a grand hall. Mira, now 15, wore a white blouse and soft gray pants. Her fingers danced across the grand piano with confidence and grace. Cameras flashed. The crowd held its breath. Her final piece was her own composition, titled Sidewalk to Sky. When she finished, there wasn't just applause. There were tears. Reporters. Musicians. Strangers, all moved by a teenager whose music held every wound and every hope. Backstage, Evelyn hugged her. Your mom would be so proud. Mira smiled. I hope she hears me. Months later, Mira launched a non-profit, Sidewalk Symphony. Its mission, to provide music education to children without homes. She began performing in shelters, schools, even juvenile centers, sharing not just her talent but her story. She told crowds, I don't remember much about the day I was left. But I remember the day I was seen. The day someone didn't walk past. At her side, always, was James, not just her guardian. Her father. One evening after a concert, he whispered, do you know what the miracle really was? She tilted her head. My music? He shook his head, smiling. You. Months after Myra's concert, life settled into a new rhythm. Evelyn visited often, bringing old family photos and stories of Myra's mother, her laugh, her love of gardening, the way she hummed while cooking. Mira soaked it all in, piecing together fragments of a past she barely remembered. But the man from the parking lot, the one who had watched her in silence, lingered in her thoughts like an unfinished melody. Then, one rainy evening, a letter arrived. No return address. Just 2 words scrawled in shaky handwriting. I'm sorry. James's hands tightened around the paper. Do you think it's him? Mira didn't answer. She walked to the piano and played a single, dissonant chord. The next day, a social worker called. The man who abandoned Mira, her biological father, Lucas Grant, has requested a supervised visit. He's undergoing rehab and claims he wants to apologize. James was furious. After 10 years. Now he shows up. But Mira surprised them both. I'll see him, she said softly. But not alone. The meeting took place in a sterile visitation room. Lucas was gaunt, his hands trembling, whether from nerves or withdrawal, James couldn't tell. When Mira entered, Lucas flinched. You look, like your mother, he whispered. Mira sat across from him, back straight, fingers tapping an invisible rhythm on her knees. Why did you leave me? Lucas's voice cracked. I was sick. Addicted. I thought, if I left you where someone good would find you, you'd have a chance. I couldn't even take care of myself. You could have asked for help, James said sharply. Lucas nodded. I know. But I was ashamed. And by the time I got clean, it was too late. Mira studied him for a long moment. Then she asked, "Do you play music?" Lucas blinked. "No. But your mother did." "A little." Mira stood. "Then I'll play for you." She walked to the old upright piano in the corner of the room, donated by the Center for Therapy Sessions, and played Amazing Grace. The same song that had first tied her to James. When she finished, Lucas was crying. "That's all I needed to say," Mira said. "Goodbye, Lucas." The encounter left Mira restless. That night, she sat at her piano and composed a new piece, "The Man by the Tree," a haunting melody that swung between anger and forgiveness. James listened from the doorway. "You're not obligated to forgive him, you know." Mira's fingers stilled. "I'm not doing it for him. I'm doing it for me." Weeks later, she performed the piece at a Sidewalk Symphony benefit for addiction recovery programs. Lucas wasn't there, but Evelyn was, clutching a tissue, pride and grief warring in her eyes. After the concert, a teenage boy approached Mira. "My dad's like yours," he mumbled. "But hearing you play, it made me feel less alone." Mira handed him a flyer. "We have free lessons every Saturday. Come." Years passed. Mira's fame grew, but she never forgot the sidewalk, or the man who'd picked her up. James, now gray-haired, traveled with her to every concert, beaming from the front row. On her 18th birthday, Mira handed him an envelope. Inside was a legal petition, adoption finalization. James's eyes watered. "But you have Evelyn now. And you're an adult. You don't need." Mira hugged him tight. "I've always been yours." That night, she played one last song, a lullaby she'd written for James. The cameras didn't record it. The crowd didn't hear it. It was just for them. And somewhere in the city, under a flickering street lamp, a man sat on a sidewalk and hummed along.